He would get a good night's sleep and be at the meeting with the attorney in the morning at 11. Then he would leave, head back to the airport, and fly home to Fairbanks. I need to end the call, Charm, so I can concentrate on following the directions to Black Crow. I'll talk to you later, kid. As Cash headed for the interstate, he thought about the conversation he'd had with his father before leaving. Bart was typical Bart. Even with 6 adult offspring, their old man still assumed it was his God-given right to stick his nose into their business when it didn't concern him. Cash had put Bart in his place just that morning when he tried telling Cash to make sure he got everything his mother owned because it was rightly due him. Cash had made it clear to Bart that he didn't want a single thing. He'd even seriously thought about not showing up for the reading of the will. As far as he was concerned, it was too late for Ellen to make up for the years she had been absent from his life. The only reason he had decided to come was for closure. The drive from Laramie to Black Crow took less than an hour. He couldn't help wondering when his mother had moved to Wyoming. According to Bart, when she left Fairbanks 34 years ago, she had moved to New York. Cash saw the marker denoting the entrance into Black Crow's city limits and recalled all he'd learned from doing an internet search last night before going to bed. It had first been inhabited by the Black Crow Indian tribe, from which the town derived its name. The present population was less than 2,000 people, and most fought to retain an old town feel, which was evident by the architecture of the buildings. He'd read that if any of the inhabitants thought Black Crow wasn't progressive enough for them, they were quickly invited to leave. But few people left, and most had lived in the area for years. It was a close-knit place. He came to a traffic light and watched numerous people walking around, going into the various shops. As he sat there, tapping his hand on the steering wheel, his gaze homed in on a woman who was walking out of an ice cream shop. She was strikingly beautiful. He couldn't help noticing how she worked her mouth on her ice cream cone, and he could just imagine her working her mouth on him the same way. Cash drew in a deep breath as he shifted in the seat. She looked pretty damn good in her pullover sweater and a pair of jeans. If she was a sampling of what Black Crow had to offer, then maybe he needed to hang around for another day or two and not be so quick to leave town tomorrow. He chuckled, thinking it would take more than a beautiful face and a gorgeous body to keep him in this town. Besides, he doubted that even if he stayed, he'd be able to find her. He had more to do with his time than chase down a woman. Chances were she was wearing some guy's ring. There was no way a woman who looked like her was not spoken for. The driver behind him beeped his horn to let Cash know the traffic light had changed and it was time to move on. Not able to resist temptation, he glanced back for one final look at the woman and saw she was gone. Just as well. Brianna Banks entered the attorney's office the next morning. "Good morning, Lois." The older woman glanced up at Brianna and smiled. "Good morning, Brianna. You're early. Is Mr. Kavanaugh in?" "Yes, he's here. And since you and Mr. Outlaw are the only two needed for the reading of the will, we can get started as soon as he arrives." Lois Ingles then leaned over the desk and said in a low voice, "I didn't know Ellen had a son. Did you?" Brianna drew in a deep breath. She liked Lois, had known the 50-something-year-old woman all her life. The one thing she also knew was that Lois had a penchant for gossip. More than once, Lois had gotten in hot water with Mr. Kavanaugh for discussing things that should be confidential. "I'd rather not say, Lois." Brianna checked her watch. "If you don't mind, I'll take a seat over there and wait." Lois's smile faded when she realized Brianna would not divulge any information. Brianna crossed the room to take a chair by the window that overlooked Eagle Bend River. Although she had known about Ellen's son, Lois was the last person Brianna would admit anything to. She'd also known of their strained relationship, which was the main reason Brianna was prepared to not like him. Besides, there was a chance he might not show up today. She picked up a magazine, deciding that whether the man showed up was not her concern. Brianna was thankful that Ellen had thought enough of her to include her in the will. She would appreciate whatever Ellen left for her. Everything Brianna had done for Ellen in her final days had been because Brianna had wanted to do so. Ellen had been there for her when she'd been a kid who lived on the blazing Frontier Dude Ranch. Brianna's mother had managed the ranch, and her father had been head foreman.